Picture the last minute of a tied game. Everything's on the line. A player goes down clutching his shin. The trainer jogs on. 30 seconds disappear. Nobody stops the clock. Nobody blows a whistle to pause it. Somewhere, invisibly, time just keeps moving while play stands completely still. If you grew up on basketball, American football, or almost anything else with a scoreboard clock, this should drive you a little insane. Football is the most watched sport on the planet, broadcast in almost every country, and its entire system for measuring time looks at first glance like it was never actually built. The easy explanation is that football is just old-fashioned. Basketball has a shot clock. American football stops the clock for practically everything. Incomplete passes, players stepping out of bounds, penalties, official reviews. Even sports like tennis and baseball don't really have a running clock problem because they're not measured in minutes at all. Football, by comparison, looks like the one major sport that never modernized its timekeeping. Maybe nobody's gotten around to fixing it. Maybe it's a relic from an era before instant replay and digital scoreboards that just never got updated. American football alone can stretch a 60-minute game past 3 hours once you count every clock stoppage for a review or an incomplete pass, and nobody seems to mind, because that's just how the sport works. So why would football, of all sports, hold on to the one system that looks the most broken? Except here's the detail that breaks that theory immediately. The clock on the stadium scoreboard, the one you're watching count up in the corner of your screen, isn't actually the official time of the match. It never has been. Under the actual laws of the game, the referee is the timekeeper, not the broadcaster, not the stadium, not a giant digital display. One person on the pitch with their own watch, quietly deciding when each half starts and when it ends. That's not a workaround, that's the design. Football built its entire system of time around a single human being's judgment from the very beginning, long before anyone was debating stop clocks versus running clocks at all. That judgment shows up as stoppage time. The clock never stops, but the referee is quietly counting every delay, injuries, substitutions, goal celebrations, players wasting time near the corner flag, and adding it all back at the end of each half. For decades, that number was applied loosely. A 90-minute match with several long stoppages might only get 2 or 3 minutes added on, even when the true lost time was closer to 7 or 8, but that changed. Starting around the 2022 World Cup, football's rule makers pushed referees to time stoppages far more precisely and add back what was actually lost instead of estimating conservatively. Matches that used to end around the 92 or 93-minute mark started routinely running past the 100-minute mark. The rule didn't change, the enforcement did, and the entire reason was to protect actual playing time, the minutes the ball is genuinely in motion, from quietly leaking away. Here's the deeper reason a stop clock was never on the table. Football is built around uninterrupted flow. There are no timeouts, no commercial breaks written into play, no natural stopping points like innings or downs or quarters. The entire 90 minutes is meant to be one continuous flowing contest, and that continuity isn't a side effect, it's the identity of the sport. A hard stop clock freezing time every single time a whistle blew would fracture that rhythm constantly. So instead, football made a trade. It gave up precise mechanical accuracy in exchange for preserved flow, and it handed the job of correcting for that imprecision to one trusted person on the pitch, armed with nothing more advanced than a watch and their own judgment. This shows up in more places than football once you start looking for it. Some systems chase perfect mechanical precision. Others deliberately leave room for a human being to use judgment, because rigid exactness would end up costing something more valuable, whether that's rhythm, trust, or the feel of the thing itself. Football could technically stop the clock for every incident, the same way basketball does. It doesn't, because doing so would break the very thing that makes it football. Sometimes the imprecise version isn't a failure to build something better. It's the entire point of the design. Courts work this way too, to an extent, when judges are given discretion instead of rigid sentencing formulas, because a formula can't account for context the way a trained human can. So next time a player goes down in the 90th minute and the clock just keeps crawling forward unbothered, that's not the sport ignoring the moment. That's the whole system working exactly as intended, the same way it's worked since the laws of the game were first written down. One referee, one watch, quietly keeping the real score of time, so the game itself never has to stop moving. Football doesn't pause for life, it just remembers carefully how much life interrupted it and pays it back before the final whistle.